بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد أشرف المرسلين. First, everybody, I would like to say Ramadan Mubarak, كل عام أنتم بخير, and خواتم مباركة. My name is Mahdi Ali from the American Muslim Society, and we've been doing a lot of activities online, virtual activities, virtual meetings, virtual lectures through the month of Ramadan. Due to COVID-19, we have switched totally to virtual activities. And today we are hosting one brother and one sister from CARE, Michigan. We have with us brother Dawood Walid. Brother Dawood Walid, he is the executive director for CARE in Michigan. And we have Sister Amy Dukori. Sister Amy is the staff attorney at CARE Michigan. And thank you, brother and sister. Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate. We know that you are so busy and you've been involved in other activities, and we really appreciate and for your time and help join us in this lecture today. The topic for this lecture is a well-known topic. It's Know Your Rights. In Arabic, إعرف حقوقك. And Brother Dawood and Sister Amy will be speaking English, and I will try to do my best to translate to اللغة العربية. So الأخ داوود والأخت إيمي سيتكلمون باللغة الإنجليزية، وأنا إن شاء الله سوف أترجم إلى اللغة العربية بقدر ما أستطيع. I know some of you know very English very well, so my translation will be brief to cover the main points, because I'm sure that a lot of you understand English. So إن شاء الله سوف أحاول أن أترجم ترجمة خفيفة، وأنا أعرف أن كثير منكم يتكلمون اللغة الإنجليزية قدر وما أفضل مني. So Brother Dawood, would you like to start?
Brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen, wa salatu wa salamu ala ashraf al-anbiya wal mursaleen, sayyidina wa nabiyina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. First of all, let me say to all of you in the community, Ramadan Mubarak, may Allah Azza wa Jal bless you and your families. This presentation is something that we've been doing now with this community now for, I believe this is the 12th year that we have done this annual Know Your Rights program during Shahr Ramadan. And CARE Michigan as an organization this year is our 20th year in existence. And this is the 12th year that we've given this presentation. And some of this information you have heard before, probably much of it, which is a refresher. But there are always things, particulars and dynamics that change from time to time. So this is also one of the other reasons why we do this presentation for you annually. You want to translate, Brother Mahdi?
نعم، الأستاذ داوود وليد يقول أن هذه هي السنة الثانية عشرة الذي يقدمون فيها هذه المحاضرة، وهي إعرف حقوقك. وأنتم قد ربما تعرفون كثير منها، لكن سوف يركزون على الأشياء، تتغير بعض الأشياء وسوف يركزوا عليها. منظمة كير السنة هذه هي السنة رقم 20 لتأسيسها، العيد 20 لتأسيس منظمة كير، والحمد لله صار لهم يقدمون الخدمات ومن ضمنها هذه لمدة 12 سنة. Yes, brother.
Alhamdulillah. So one point that I'd like to make and stress to you is, even though we have the COVID-19 crisis that has had us in our homes now for approximately 2 months, the cases that have come in CARE Michigan's office this year are about the same as this time last year. and we still have had discrimination cases that have come into our office. So just because we've had sheltering in place doesn't mean that discrimination has stopped against Muslims, nor does it mean that you should have your guard down right at this time, in particular when it comes to law enforcement coming to your homes. And we know from accounts with sister organizations, as well as through the media, that immigration customs enforcement officers in particular has still been coming to people's homes and still picking up immigrants during this particular lockdown. And actually, they've seized this as an opportunity given that they believe that people are actually in their homes right now. So uh, this presentation, or this Know Your Rights presentation, is no less important than it would be under normal circumstances.
نعم. الأستاذ داود وليد يقول على الرغم من قضية وكارثة أو جائحة كورونا، فإن القضايا التي تأتيهم نفس المستوى من العام الماضي. يعني لم تقل القضايا عن، فقد يعتقد البعض أن الناس كلهم في البيوت وأن العنصرية ستنخفض، لكنه يقول أن يعني جرائم العنصرية والكراهية هي نفس المستوى، وما يأتيهم إلى المكتب تبعهم من قضايا هي نفسها تأتي إلى قضايا المكاتب الأخرى في الولاية، وخصوصا من ضباط الهجرة. فيقول أن ضباط الهجرة يأتون إلى الناس إلى البيوت لأنهم يعلمون أن الناس كلهم موجودين في البيوت، ويعتقلوهم بالرغم من هذه الكارثة لأنهم يعرفون أن الناس كلهم في البيوت. فالخدمات اللي تقدمها كير والقضايا هي نفسها لم تتغير بالجائحة التي نعيش فيها. Yes, brother.
Okay. So from this point, I think I'm going to stop talking now, and the bulk of the presentation will come from our staff attorney, Muhamia Amy Adukore, who will give the bulk of the presentation, and then afterwards, I will be available along with her for the questions and answer portion of this presentation.
إذا الأخ وليد من الآن فصاعدا إن شاء الله سوف يتحول الميكروفون إلى الأخت أيمي، وهي المحامية في فرع منظمة كير لولاية ميشيغان. Yes, sister.
Assalamu alaikum. First of all, Ramadan Mubarak to everybody, and thanks for joining us for this presentation. Like Brother Dawood said, we have had the same amount of intakes this year at this time as we did last year at this time, despite the fact that people have been sheltering in place since the middle of March. So even though we've been in our homes for 2 months, we're still experiencing discrimination and law enforcement activity. So today I'm going to speak to you a little bit about what your rights are when you're traveling, and then we're going to talk a little bit about what your rights are in your home should law enforcement or immigration and customs enforcement come to the home looking for people inside of the home.
So الأستاذة إيمي تقول، أو المحامية إيمي تقول، تؤكد ما قاله الأخ داود، أنه القضايا العنصرية وقضايا المضايقات للجالية المسلمة مستمرة كما هي في الأعوام الماضية ولم تتغير بجائحة كورونا، وبالرغم من الناس جالسين في البيوت أكثر من شهرين ما زالت. فهي إن شاء الله ستركز الآن على حقوقك وأنت في البيت، وكذلك حقوقك وحقوق الجالية وقت السفر. Yes, sister?
So first I'm going to talk about what your rights are when you're traveling or when you find yourself at the border. And a border could mean either at the airport when returning into the country, or it could also mean in Detroit when you come back across the Canadian border, or even in Port Huron when you're coming across the Canadian border. And generally speaking, when you're entering when you're inside of the country, everybody has the same rights, whether you're a citizen or a non-citizen, or you're a student visa holder or an H-1B visa holder, everybody has the same rights. However, this is not necessarily true when we're entering back into the country. citizens hold far more rights at the border than do non-citizens, including green card holders and including people who are holding a visa, whether it is a visa for travel, a visa for vacation over here, or a student visa, or even a work visa.
سوف تبدأ الأخت إيمي في التحدث عن حقوقك وأنت يعني في السفر من خلال المعاملات في الحدود. فهي تقول أنه ما دمنا نحن داخل هذا البلد فإن الحقوق متساوية سواء كنا متجنسين أم غير متجنسين، لكن الوضع يختلف عندما تأتي إلى الحدود، وسواء كانت الحدود هذه هي المطارات أو حدود برية مثل حدودنا مع دولة كندا. فالذي هم جنسية أمريكية يتمتعون بحقوق أفضل عندما يكونوا مسافرين في المطارات وفي الحدود، لكن الوضع يختلف بالنسبة للذي هم عندهم البطاقة الخضراء الجرين كارد أو طلاب أو يعني visitors يعني زوار إلى آخره. Yes.
Specifically, citizens cannot be denied entry into the country. If a citizen comes to the border, either at the airport or a land border, and they're asking for entry, Customs and Border Protection must let them enter the country, and this is not true for any type of visa holder. And this is not true even if that visa holder has entered the country before. Green card holders, if you've been into the United States before, can't necessarily be turned around at the border, but they can be put in proceedings to remove them, their status from them. But every other type of visa holder, the visa does not guarantee entry into the country. It just allows you to ask permission to come into the country. So it's citizens, while citizens can't be denied and have far more rights, the visa holders need to be a little bit more cautious about what takes place at the border for them.
So, إحدى الحقوق للذي هم عندهم الجنسية أو متجنسين لا يحق لضباط الجمارك أو ضباط الهجرة في المطار أن يمنعوهم من دخول البلد. فهذا معروف أنه أي شخص متجنس فلا يحق لهم أن يقولوا له ارجع من لأنه هو عائد إلى بلده. لكن هذا الوضع يختلف بالنسبة للذي معهم الفيزا مثل مثلا ستودنت أو غيرهم. ليس معنى أنهم قد جاءوا إلى أمريكا من قبل أن ضباط الهجرة أو الجمارك في المطار لا يحق لهم أن يرجعوهم إلى بلدهم أو لا يسمحوا لهم في الدخول. فالوضع يختلف تماما. Yes, sister.
When presenting yourself at the border, everybody who comes to the border, it doesn't matter if you're a citizen or a non-citizen, or whether you're coming from a land border, or if you're coming from the airport, everybody has to go through what's called primary inspection. This is where you present yourself at the border, you show your passport, you say where you've been, they ask you questions about what you might be bringing back with you, fruits and vegetables, things of that nature. This is very normal, and those are very standard questions. However, we know that Muslims are significantly more likely to get singled out at the border for what's called a secondary inspection. And secondary inspections are where they ask you to step aside and they ask you increasingly more intrusive questions. And sometimes they use this process to ask Muslims very inappropriate and impermissible questions just to gather information about the community. And we still see that this process is taking place more and more during the times when people do have international travel. So while everybody goes through primary inspection, if you've been selected to step aside and have answer more questions or go to a separate room, then you are they're signaling to you that they intend to take you in for what's called secondary inspection.
So, عندما نحن نعود من السفر إلى أمريكا فهناك نوعين من الأسئلة. الأسئلة الأولى التي هي كما البرايمري التي هي الأساسية والتي هي الطبيعية، الأسئلة الطبيعية: من أين جئت؟ إلى أين ذهبت؟ كم عندك مبالغ؟ إلى آخره. هذا شيء طبيعي. لكن النوع الثاني من الأسئلة أو من المساءلة هو يعني أكثر أسئلة للشخص، أمور شخصية، وخصوصا ما نحن المسلمون أو المسلمين يتعرضون لهذه المضايقات، فيبدأ ضباط الهجرة في أسئلتهم أسئلة لجمع معلومات أكثر عن ذلك الشخص. Yes, sister.
If you're a U.S. citizen and you're asked to step aside for secondary questioning, and they've asked you anything outside of where you traveled, what you're bringing back with you, what the purpose of your visit is, then you can absolutely invoke your right to remain silent. U.S. citizens don't have to answer any other questions other than that. But you must do it affirmatively. You have to say, I invoke my right to remain silent. I'm not answering any questions about whatever the topic is that they're seeking questions for you. However, lawful permanent residents and visa holders don't have this same right. Visa holders, especially refusing to answer simple questions at the border, could get you turned around and sent back to the country that you're from without being able to be entered into the country. What we do know is that when people answer questions at the border, we do know that oftentimes that leads to follow-up from FBI agents. A lot of times as Muslims and as individuals, we feel like we don't really have anything to hide. So why aren't we answering questions? There's no harm in it. But there is harm in it. There's harm in the fact that you're, giving away some of your civil rights, but also the fact that oftentimes this leads to further investigations from law enforcement.
Yes. الأخت تقول أنه عندما تأتي إذا أنت أمريكي الجنسية فإنه يجب عليك إجابة الأسئلة الأساسية التي تتعلق بالرحلة، التي تتعلق إلى أين ذهبت، من أين جئت، كم المدة التي جلست فيها. هذه يلزم عليك إجابتها. لكن الأسئلة الأخرى التي هي يعني ليس لها علاقة في هذه الأمور فأنت لست ملزما في الإجابة عليها، ومن الأفضل أن تلتزم الصمت، لأنه إذا بعض الأشخاص يقولون أنا ليس عندي أي مشكلة، أجاوب على أي سؤال يسألوني أجيب عليه، لكن المشكلة أنهم يأخذوا منك الإجابة ثم بعد ذلك يأتوا إليك إلى البيت ويعملوا معك تحقيق آخر. هذا بالنسبة للذي هم جنسية يلتزم الصمت، لهم الحق ويطلبوا محامي. لكن الذي هم جرين كارد أو فيزا هولدر اللي عندهم فقط فيزا، هؤلاء للأسف ليس لهم هذا الحق نفسه، فربما الهجرة ربما يعيدهم إلى البلد التي جاءوا منها إذا لم يجيبوا على هذه الأسئلة. Yes.
So some of the questions that Muslims are often asked at the border actually are questions that are illegal and inappropriate to be asked. If you find yourself at the border and the Customs and Border Protection officer is asking you about your religion, your faith, anything about the religion, like if they seem like they're just asking you questions to be curious, they're not really just being curious. If they ask you how many times do you pray, or do you pray at the masjid, or do you wear the scarf all the time, or does your wife wear the scarf? Those are all religious questions that are actually illegal for them to ask you at the border. They're not allowed to ask you any questions about your social media usage. They should not be asking you questions about your friends or your contacts, whether those contacts are in the United States or outside of the United States. And they definitely should not be asking you about your politics. If they're asking you about how you feel about US politicians or even politicians or wars that are happening overseas, all of those questions are inappropriate. And if you are a US citizen and you're being asked those questions, you should absolutely invoke your right to remain silent and ask to speak to a supervisor and get the name and the badge number of all of the CBP officers that you're dealing with. If you're a green card holder, you can decline to answer these questions about your religious beliefs, your political affiliations, and your friends overseas, but it's likely that they'll delay your entry, and sometimes they can deny entry into the United States. Visa holders refusing to answer these questions can be turned away and not allowed into the US. So that's a risk that each individual person is going to have to weigh whether they're willing to undergo that intrusion to allow entry into the US if you are a visa holder and not a green card holder or a citizen.
فبعض الأسئلة التي هي أسئلة غير قانونية وغير ولا يجب أن تسأل هي ما يتعلق بالدين واعتقادك الديني. هذا السؤال غير قانوني. مثلا هل تصلي؟ أين تصلي؟ في أي مسجد أنت تصلي؟ هذه أسئلة غير قانونية. إذا سألوك الأسئلة التي تتعلق في السوشيال ميديا، مثلا وسائل التواصل الاجتماعي مثل الفيسبوك، يريدوا يعرفوا معلومات عن الفيسبوك تبعك أو وسائل التواصل الاجتماعي الأخرى، هذه سؤال غير قانوني. أسئلة عن أصدقائك، من هم أصدقائك سواء في أمريكا أو خارج أمريكا، هذه أسئلة غير قانونية. الأسئلة عن السياسة، politics، السياسة، هذه أسئلة سواء داخل أمريكا أو خارج أمريكا، يسألوك عن السياسة وش رأيك في السياسة، ما رأيك في السياسة، هذه أسئلة غير قانونية. فأنت كأمريكي متجنس يحق لك أن تلتزم بالصمت وتأخذ أرقام أو الاي دي تبع الأشخاص الأوفيسرز اللي سألوك. وأنا أعتقد أنه أيضا يحق لك أن يكون لك محامي، يعني بحيث أنه يدافع عنه، يحضر بهذه الأسئلة اللي يسألوك فيها في المستقبل. في قضية الجرين كارد هولدرز، إذا لم تجب على الأسئلة هذه قد ربما يتعبوك في المطار ويؤخروا دخولك إلى أمريكا، يعني بحيث أنهم يتعبوك، لكنهم غالبا هي تقول قد يستطيعوا أن يمنعوك أيضا. لكن الفيزا هولدر مثل الستودنتس والزوار وغيرها الطلاب، هؤلاء إذا لم يجيبوا فلضباط الهجرة الحق في إرجاعهم إلى أوطانهم. Yes.
Generally speaking, also, nobody has a right to an attorney when you're at the border. Not citizens, not green card holders, and not visa holders. The only exception to when you can have an attorney present at the border is if you are a U.S. citizen that is being questioned by an FBI agent, or if you're being questioned about specific involvement in criminal activity. Under that circumstances, U.S. citizens can ask for an attorney at the border. However, generally speaking, nobody is allowed to have an attorney while they're present at the border.
جيد، توضيح جيد من الأخت إنه لا يحق لأي واحد أن يطلب محامي في البوردر، في الحدود، بحيث يأتي يدافع عنه في الحدود، إلا في حالة إذا هو متجنس جنسية أمريكية وتعرض للمساءلة من قبل ال FBI، مكتب التحقيقات الفيدرالية الأمريكية، فإنه في ذلك الوقت يحق له أن يكون له محامي. لكن بشكل عام لا يحق لأي واحد أن يطلب محامي يأتي إلى الحدود أو المطار ويعني يحضر معه. Yes.
Now I'm going to talk very briefly about what to do if you have an electronic device at the border. And this section covers whether you have a cell phone at the border, an iPod, an iPad, your laptop. It covers any type of electronic device that you might have at the border. A lot of us travel with a lot of different devices. All of the information we have in our life is on that device. Our personal contacts, our personal information, photos, for some people, like their business information. So it's very important to know what to do with your electronic device at the border. And the first thing to realize is that if CBP, or Customs and Border Protection, they ask you to turn over your device to them, you do actually have to physically hand them whatever electronic device that you have that you're carrying with you. However, what you do not have to do is you do not have to allow them access to it if you have a password on it.
نعم. شيء مهم جدا وهو موضوع الأجهزة الإلكترونية، والذي فيها كل شيء من معلوماتنا، السوشيال ميديا، التواصل الاجتماعي إلى آخره. ف يعني عندما تكون في المطارات أو في الحدود تدخل إلى أمريكا، فإنه إذا طلبوا منك الجهاز نفسه فأنت ملزم تعطيهم الجهاز، لكنك لست ملزما أن تعطيهم كلمة السر بحيث يدخلوا ويطلعوا على معلوماتك وتفتح لهم التلفون. هذا أنت لست ملزما فيه. Yes.
And there's a distinction to be made between having a password and not having a password on your phone. When we talk about having a password on your phone, I'm talking specifically about having either an alphabet, a word, or a number or a pin on your phone, or even a swipe. The swipe designs that you have, that's considered a password. And something that you've created that's unique to you, that's a password. And if you have a password on your phone, the Customs and Border Protection cannot open your phone without a warrant. However, when we're crossing the border with some of the newer electronic devices that maybe have facial recognition technology or fingerprint technology or other biometric entry points where they can use some characteristics about your physical appearance to access your phone, that is not a password. And in fact, that does not secure your phone from the Customs and Border Protection. In most places, Customs and Border Protection can force you to unlock your iPhone or other device if the only protection you have on it is biometric, either a facial recognition technology or a fingerprint. So it's very, very important to have an actual password that you've created on your phone when you're coming in and out of the country.
قضية كلمة السر الذي تستطيع أنت الدخول إلى تلفونك ينقسم إلى نوعين. القسم الأول وهو قسم يعني معلومة خاصة فيك تعملها باسورد أو كلمة سر فيها أرقام وفيها حروف. هذه لست ملزما إذا طلبوها منك أن تعطيها إياهم. لكن الآن في باسورد زي ما الفينجر برينت اللي هي البصمة تعملها على التلفون، تعملها على تلفون الايفون والجالكسي. كذلك قضيه الفيشل يعني الوجه، بحيث انه تعمل التلفون فعلى طول ينفتح التلفون. هذه يستطيعون ان لانه تتعلق في صفاتك الخارجيه اللي هي فيزيكال، يستطيعون انهم يرغموك انك تفتح لهم التلفون اما اذا تستخدم البصمه او اذا تستخدم علامات الوجه لفتح التلفون. فالافضل انه يكون معك الباسورد الذي هي كتابه او ارقاما وحروف، وهم هذه يعتبر حقوق الشخص انه لا يعني ليس ملزما ان يعطيهم اياها. Yes.
So the rule about cell phones and electronic devices is a universal rule. So nobody at the border has to allow entry to their electronic device if you have a password on it. However, U.S. citizens who have denied entry into their phone sometimes find that CBP will seize their phone. And they're very open in telling you that we're going to seize it and we're going to have somebody hack into your phone, meaning they're going to try to do it without a warrant. This is very common. Green card holders can also refuse access to their phone, but it might result in increased delay at the border and also seizure of the phone. And visa holders who refuse access to their phone, it may result in them being turned around at the border. However, allowing access to your phone, just like allowing yourself to be questioned about inappropriate questions, does not necessarily mean that it's going to make anything easier for you. And in fact, a lot of times you can grant access to your phone and you'll still end up with your phone being seized, or you'll still end up with a follow-up question from law enforcement. So, and when you allow them access to your phone, you're allowing them access to anything that you have on your phone, your WhatsApp messages, your Facebook, your cloud storage, your email, everything. Even though they say that they are not supposed to access it, we know firsthand that they have accessed those types of information on the phone. So your best bet to protect yourself and protect your community members and your family members is to make sure that you have a password on your phone and that you don't voluntarily hand it over to CBP.
So هم ربما قد يضغطوا عليك ويقولوا إذا لم تعطنا التلفون أو الباسورد أو كلمة السر سوف نأخذ تلفونك ونعمل يعني زي يدخلوها بطريقة معينة، القرصنة أو الهاك. فبالنسبة للجرين كارد يعني يستطيعوا يأخذوا التلفون تبعه لفترة معينة. الجرين كارد ممكن يأخروا في المطار وتعبوا في المطار وبعدين يأخذوا منها التلفون. بالنسبة للفيزا هولدر اللي هو زي الطلاب أو غيره يعني زوار إلى آخره، يستطيعوا إذا ما أعطوهمش، إذا لم يعطوا معلومات الباسورد إلى آخره، سوف يقدروا يرجعوهم إلى بلدهم. فهي تقول إنه من الأفضل عدم إعطائهم الباسورد أو كلمة السر لجهازك، لأنه كل شيء فيها معلومات عنك. يعني المعلومات اللي يعني غير قانونية يسألوك فيها سوف يأخذوها من خلال جهازك، يعني من خلال تتبعاتك وسائل التواصل الاجتماعي، أصدقائك، عائلتك إلى آخره. فأفضل طريقة لتحمي نفسك وتحمي عائلتك وأصدقائك ويعني الآخرين هو أن تكون معك كلمة سر تحمي بها المعلومات التي في داخل الجهاز. Yes.
Keep in mind, I know that electronic devices are necessary. Like, we've become so reliant on them. So there are some other steps that you can take to protect yourself and protect your personal information when you're traveling internationally. Some things that you can do in order to make sure that if your phone does get accessed or seized by CBP when you're traveling internationally, that they have the least amount of information as possible, is you could carry a spare phone with you that you only use while you're traveling, so it doesn't have all of your information and your files on it. You can, back all of your important information up to the cloud, your emails, your files, your data, especially if you're traveling for work, and then you sign out of the cloud device. We should also be signing out of all of our social media accounts when we're traveling internationally and when we're crossing the border. And another thing that's very important is we should not be carrying around our phone with all of our WhatsApp messages. I know WhatsApp is a very important tool that many of us are using. We share a lot of information. And if you're like me, I often get added to groups, some WhatsApp groups. I don't know who added me. I don't know many of the people that are on them, and people are sharing information. And that happens a lot. But if CBP accesses that and there's people on there that you don't know, somehow they've now linked you to those people. So one thing that I advise is that when we're traveling internationally, we just remove WhatsApp from our phone and sign out of all of our social media accounts. That way, if something does happen and CBP seizes your phone or accesses it, they have the least amount of information, of your personal information, as possible.
باختصار شديد، أفضل شيء وأأمن شيء أنه تقلل من المعلومات التي في جهازك عندما تسافر، خصوصا إلى خارج البلد، طبعا international، إلى يعني سفر دولي، حتى تقلل من مخاطر أن يحصلوا على معلومات، وخصوصا الواتساب، لأنه الواتساب فيها معلومات كثيرة. بعض الأحيان قد تضاف إلى جروبات أو مجموعات بدون ما تعلم، يعني وفيها معلومات كثيرة أنت لا تعلمها، أو قد تعلمها، لكن فمن الأفضل أنه تمسح الواتساب تماما. امسح الواتساب تماما مع كل الرسائل من باب الاحتياط، وكذلك تحاول تعمل لاج اوت او تخرج من السوشيال ميديا بحيث انه ما يستطيعوا لو مسكوا التليفون انهم يدخلوا اليها. Yes, sister.
And then the last thing I'm going to talk about today about international travel is specifically for visa holders and lawful permanent residents or green card holders. When you're coming to the border, if you've been taken to secondary inspection, green card holders especially should never sign any documents at the border. You should, as a rule of thumb, not sign any documents that are legal documents without having an attorney present to look at them. But specifically at the border, there have been many, many instances where green card holders have signed away their rights to their green card at the border because they were tricked. CBP told them, if you sign this document, we'll release you. And then they sign the document and come to find out they've voluntarily given up their green card or their lawful permanent resident status. And at that point, there's very little that can be done because you've done it voluntarily, and you don't get to go in front of a court or anything to try to fight to get it back. So it's very important not to sign anything at the border. However, if you are a non-immigrant visa holders, for instance, if you're coming over here on a visitor visa, and it looks like you're not going to be allowed entry into the country, you should ask the CBP officer to allow you to withdraw your request for admissions. This could save you a lot of problems in the future. because you have not been actually denied entry into the border. You've actually withdrawn your request, and then it will make it easier, hopefully in the future, for you to be able to get another visa or to obtain entry into the United States at a later date.
فالأخت أيضا تقول في شيء مهم بالنسبة للأشخاص الحاملين للبطاقة الخضراء أو ما يسمى الجرين كارد. لازم يكونوا حذرين ألا يوقعوا أي ورقة يطلب منهم في المطار، لأنه قد يعني يطلب منهم يوقعوا ورقة اختيارية أنه من أنفسهم يريدوا أن يتخلوا عن الإقامة، عن الجرين كارد، وبهذا يكون قد تخلوا عن الإقامة ويحق له للإميجريشن أن يرحلهم إلى بلدهم. فقد يكذب عليهم أو يعني تكون زي الخديعة ويقال لهم أنه هذه الورقة إذا وقعتها يعني كل شيء بيكون تمام، ولكن يطلع أنه العكس. هذا بالنسبة للجرين كارد، فيحق يعني يحق لهم أنهم يرفضوا أنهم يوقعوا أي ورقة، يعني خصوصا إذا لم يعرفوا إيش فيها. بالنسبة للزوار أو الطلاب أو غيرهم الذي مش يعني ليسوا مهاجرين وإنما جاءوا كزيارة، فالأفضل إذا شافوا أن الأمور يعني في مشاكل أو تعقيدات في الدخول، الأفضل هم من أنفسهم يقولوا خلاص أنا يعني سوف أريد يعني اختياريا أن أعود إلى بلدي. هذا أفضل من أنه لو ضابط الهجرة اضطر هو يرحلهم أو يرجعهم أو يمنع دخولهم إلى أمريكا، لأنه لو اختياريا يطلب الشخص فيحق له مرة ثانية يقدم يعود إلى البلد مرة أخرى. Yes.
Okay, so now we're going to talk specifically about, for a few minutes, about what happens when law enforcement comes to your home. In this instance, law enforcement can mean the FBI, it could mean the local or state police, or it could mean immigration and customs enforcement. All of those are considered law enforcement agencies for the purpose of this conversation. As we know, as we're aware from our community, Muslim Americans are much more likely than the general population to be visited by the FBI in their home. We're not just seeing law enforcement at the airport, we're seeing them in our home, we're seeing them at our workplace. So there are many reasons why a law, like an FBI investigation, might get triggered. It could be something very benign, based on social media usage. It could be anonymous phone calls or tips by coworkers or neighbors who maybe you've had like a personal conflict with. We've actually seen that, and they can lead to very serious issues for Muslims. So there are some very important things to remember about when law enforcement comes to your house. Oftentimes, the FBI will come to our house and they will come and say that they just want to talk to us about maybe how we feel about what's going on overseas, or about a specific war, or about a specific political thing that just happened. And one thing that's very important to know is that the federal government, especially law enforcement agencies, they have no reason to understand your religious feelings, your political feelings, your foreign policy beliefs. It's not a law enforcement issue. There's no real relevant reason why they would be coming to talk to you about this, unless they're looking just to start a conversation to get more information from you. So it's very important that we understand that they're not coming just to gauge our feeling or our understanding about these issues.
So, المحامية إيمي تريد أن تتكلم الآن عن حقوقنا في البيوت، وخصوصا عندما نتعرض لزيارة أو يأتوا من اللاw enforcement اللي هم جهات الشرطة، سواء كانت الشرطة أو ال FBI، وغالبا يأتون إلى المسلمين أكثر من غيرهم، إما بسبب الفيسبوك أو السوشيال ميديا أو وسائل التواصل الاجتماعي، مقالة أو شيء، أو ربما يعني الجيران يعني يبلغوا عن هذا المسلم يعني باكتيفيتي أو يعني أشياء مشبوهة. فهي تقول إنه هؤلاء عندما يأتون إلى البيوت لا يحق لهم أن يتكلموا عن معتقداتك الدينية أو شعورك تجاه أي شيء سواء كان سياسي أو ديني، لأنه ليس من عملهم. هذا يعني هم عملهم يعني لا يسمح لهم أنهم يبحثوا في هذه الأشياء. Yes.
So going forward, everything I'm going to say will apply to everybody equally. It doesn't matter if you're a citizen. It doesn't matter if you're a green card holder or lawful permanent resident. It doesn't matter if you're a visa holder. Once you're inside the United States, the Constitution of the United States protects the people in the United States and not just citizens. So everybody enjoys the same rights, especially in their home. And generally speaking, when law enforcement comes to your home to speak to you about any issue, you don't really want to speak to them. And you definitely don't want to invite them into your house. Inviting them into your house is a violation of your privacy, and it's harder to get them out. They're going to want to talk. They're going to be looking around. So it's better that we don't do that. And the other thing is, even stepping on the porch to speak to them will weaken your constitutional rights. So we should not be speaking to them on the porch. What we should be doing when FBI or state or local police or the Immigration Customs Enforcement comes to our door, we should be asking them what's their purpose there. And then we should be telling them to give us their business card. And then we should tell them that we will have our attorney contact them. There are generally only two ways where law enforcement can actually enter your home. The first way is if you let them in, and we know that we're not going to do that. And the second way is if they have a warrant to search your home. An arrest warrant or an ICE warrant to apprehend a non-documented immigrant does not allow them to enter your home. Only a search warrant allows law enforcement to enter your home.
So المحامية إيمي ستتكلم عن شيء ينطبق على الجميع، لأن احنا داخل أمريكا ولنا حقوق دستورية، سواء كان جنسية أمريكية أو كان الشخص بطاقة خضراء جرين كارد أو يعني مع فيزا ستودنت، هذا الآن ينطبق على الجميع. فتقول أنه إذا حضر المخابرات أو يعني اللو انفورسمنت أو البوليس أو الشرطة إلى داخل بيتك فأنت لست ملزما أن تدخلهم إلى البيت. ومن الأفضل والنصيحة أنه لا تدخلهم إلى البيت، لأنه عندما يدخل إلى البيت يبدأ يسألك معلومات ويشوف إيش في البيت، فتتعرض يعني خصوصيتك إلى يعني إنه يعرف كل شيء عنك. طيب ايش المطلوب؟ المطلوب انه تاخذ من هذا ضابط الشرطه او الاف بي اي، تاخذ منه معلوماته، ما اسمه ووظيفته والبزنس كارد يعني او الكارت التعرفه، ثم تقول له انك ستتكلم مع المحامي يعني وتعطهم رقم المحامي بحيث اذا يريدون لقائك بحضور المحامي. تنصح انه في البورش خارج البيت يعني بالشرفه او خارج الباب لا تتكلم معهم، لانه هذا سيؤدي ايضا الى انك تعطيهم معلومات. فهي تقول انه يحق لهم الدخول الى بيتك في خلال حالتين، من خلال شيئين. الاول انك اختياريا تدخلهم وهذا لا ينصح. الشيء الثاني اذا عندهم مذكره يعني مذكره من المحكمه تسمح لهم انهم يدخلوا الى بيتك. Yes.
So when law enforcement comes to your house, they're going to knock on the door. We should be asking them to just give us their business card. And then as soon as you have their business card, you should contact CARE Michigan. CARE Michigan frequently represents individuals who have been contacted by law enforcement, even by ICE. We represented some business owners last year who were contacted by ICE under the guise of having an inspection of their workers' reports, their I-9 reports for their workers. So you should be as brief as possible, ask them for their business card, and then contact CARE Michigan where we can assist you. If they have a search warrant, unfortunately, you're going to have to let them in the house, but you should also contact CARE Michigan and we can see if we can find an attorney to come down and observe the search of the home for you. If ICE or if the police department comes with an arrest warrant for somebody who is found inside the home, the best thing for them to do is to step onto the porch and go peacefully with the law enforcement officer if there's an arrest warrant, if that person is there. That way that none of the other people in the house or the privacy of the home is still preserved and the individual can just go with them. It's important when you're looking at warrants for arrest warrants or ICE warrants to make sure that they're signed by a judge. if the warrant is not signed by a judge, it's not a lawful warrant, and therefore the person does not have to go with law enforcement officers. And law enforcement officers have sometimes tricked people into believing that they had a warrant when they really don't have a warrant. It'll say warrant at the top, and it will definitely be signed by a judge. And under those circumstances, it's a lawful warrant, and the individual named on the warrant, if they're present in the home, should peacefully go with the officer. However, at that time, the person who's being either arrested or detained should not speak. They should tell the officers that they invoke their rights to remain silent. The most important thing that everybody needs to understand is that when we're dealing with law enforcement in a situation where they've approached us to ask us questions, the least amount of interaction and the least amount of conversation we have them, the better it's going to be for us. We don't have any reason to affirmatively talk to law enforcement, and we should not be just engaging them. We like to say that we don't have chai with the FBI. We don't want to have that type of relationship with them where they can just come to us and get information from us, because it never ends well for the individual, because they're never coming for any purpose other than to try to find out some kind of information to use against either you or people in the community.
So ماذا لو حدث ويريدون يعني أن يعتقلوك وعندهم مذكرة اعتقال من المحكمة؟ فلازم تتأكد أن هذه الورقة الاعتقال أو مذكرة الاعتقال من المحكمة موقعة من القاضي، لأنهم بعض الأحيان قد يكذبون. ضابط الهجرة أو ضابط FBI قد يكذب، يظهر في الورقة أن يعني مذكرة اعتقال لكن ليست موقعة من القاضي، فأنت تأكد. إذا ما ذلك تم، فمن الأفضل أنه تخرج إلى البورش أو لخارج البيت وتمشي معهم بسلام إلى السيارة تبعهم، وتلتزم بالتعليمات بدون أن تتحدث بأشياء كثيرة، وتطلب أن يكون معك محامي يدافع عنك. فكلما كان الكلام الذي تتكلم معهم أقل، كلما كنت في وضع أفضل. وكذلك لا ينصح إنه مثلا تخليهم يدخلون إلى البيت، لأنه قد يعني يرون ناس آخرين في البيت أو يعرفوا أشياء أخرى. فأفضل إنه إيش يخرج الشخص إلى خارج يعني، ويذهب معهم إذا كانت بعد ما يتأكدوا أن هناك مذكرة اعتقال. طيب إذا جاءوا لك بدون مذكرة اعتقال، يعني ليس معهم مذكرة اعتقال، تأخذ منهم البزنس كارد، ثم تتواصل مع منظمة كير، ومنظمة كير سوف يساعدوك. إذا كان عندهم مذكرة اعتقال لاعتقالك، طبعا لا تستطيع أن ترفض ذلك، لازم تمشي معهم، لكن ما زال لك الحق أن تتواصل مع منظمة كير، ومنظمة كير سوف يساعدوك في قضية إيجاد محامي لك. Yes.
So that concludes all of the informative piece that I wanted to share with you guys today. The last thing I want to say is that even during this time, our physical office is closed, but CARE Michigan is still available. We're still taking phone calls. We're still actively doing work on the behalf of the Muslim community. So we would ask that you continue to call us and to continue to support our work. At this time, I'm going to open it up to see if anybody has any questions.
المحامية إيمي تقول أنه على الرغم أن مكتب كير المكتب مغلق، لكنهم موجودون ومستعدون لمساعدة الجالية. يمكنك اتصال أو يمكنك اتصال بأرقام تلفونهم، وهم إن شاء الله سوف يساعدوكم. والآن المجال المفتوح للأسئلة إذا كان عند أي شخص سؤال. أنور، كيف ستكون الأسئلة؟ هل ستكون عن طريق الشات ولا كيف؟ How's the question will be?
في الآن سؤال في الشات. As a US citizen, what are the consequences if you refuse to give them your phone at the airport?
So as a US citizen, if you refuse, you have to give them your phone. I want to make it very clear that if CBP demands to see your phone, you physically have to turn it over to them. So just so we're clear, you have to physically actually hand them the phone, but you don't have to give them access to the phone. Like I stated during the presentation, refusing access to your phone could lead to them trying to keep the phone or trying to keep it so that they can get into it later. That does happen, and we actually saw last year, we saw a large increase in the amount of electronic devices that were being seized at the border, but not giving them your access to your phone, it doesn't create any larger probability that your phone will get seized. Giving them access to your phone can also lead to a phone seizure. And if your phone is seized, you can contact our office. We have been successful at getting people's phones back before any information was taken from them.
Although the السؤال كان في اللغة الإنجليزية لكني سأترجم إن شاء الله للغة العربية حتى يفهم الباقي. السؤال كان إذا أنا أمريكي متجنس وجنسية أمريكية هل يحق لي أن أرفض أن أعطي تلفوني لضباط الهجرة في المطار أو في الحدود؟ فالمحامي تقول أنه للأسف الشديد الكل ملزم إذا طلبوا منك يعني نحن ملزمون أن نعطيهم إياه، لكن القضية المهمة جدا ألا نعطيهم الباسورد والكلمات السر ونخليهم يدخلوا التلفون ويعرفوا كل المعلومات، لأنه هذا لن يمنعهم أنهم يأخذوا منك التلفون. قد يأخذوا منك معلومات التلفون الباسورد إلى آخره، ويأخذوا التلفون كذلك حتى يخرجوا المعلومات. فإذا طلبوا منك وأعطيتهم يعني تعطهم بدون كلمة السر، وثم تتصل بمنظمة كير ويعني هم بيحاولوا يساعدوا كيف تسترجع هذا الجهاز.
Another question, what is your right when a police officer stops you for a traffic stop? Are you obligated to step out of the car, etc.?
So this is a tricky question because we know for persons of color, this can be a very dangerous interaction. Anytime that a person of color, especially African-American males or men of color, and specifically are stopped by law enforcement, this can turn into a life-threatening altercation. So one thing that we suggest is that you remain calm, because oftentimes when the police officers approach you, they're not calm. So it's better if somebody's calm on the scene. So we suggest that you remain calm. And with regards to the specific question, people are required to comply with all lawful orders given by the police during a traffic stop. Sometimes we don't want to get out of our car because we know that changes the dynamic of the situation, but you are required to comply with all lawful orders given by a police officer during a traffic stop. One thing that you should also do is make sure that you're presenting them with proper ID, and then answering questions regarding what the traffic stop is. And just so you know, it's also not illegal to videotape traffic stops. Police don't like it because they get seen doing things that they maybe are embarrassed about later. But we do suggest that when you have interactions with law enforcement, that as much as possible, you videotape it with your phone or live stream it on Facebook. Because if there's a dispute about what happened and the dispute comes down to your word against the officer's word, they're more than likely they're going to believe the officer. So it's best to videotape, and then because the videotape isn't going to lie.
نعم، المحامي تقول أنه قضية يعني توقيف شخص وقت مخالفة أو في السيارة أو في البوليس يعني على الطريق الشرطة هي حساسة جدا، وخصوصا للأخوة من الجالية السوداء يعني الأفريقيين الأمريكيين، لأنه قد تكون فيها حياة موت إذا الشخص يرفض أن يتبع تعليمات الشرطة. فهي تقول أنه من الواجب وقت توقيف شخص في مخالفة مرورية فعلى الشخص أن يتبع تعليمات الشرطة بما في ذلك الخروج من السيارة إذا طلب منه ذلك، لتجنب مشاكل لا سمح الله قد تحدث، يعني لأنه عندما يأتي البوليس قد يكون متفاعل، ومن الأفضل أن يكون الشخص الذي في السيارة يكون يعني هادئ حتى لا تحدث مشاكل أخرى. وهي تنصح بعمل تصوير إما بالتلفون يعني وعن طريق وبثها على الفيسبوك، أو فيديو يعني خزنها بالتلفون، لأنه لا سمح الله وحدثت مشكلة إذا ما فيش تصوير إذا ما فيش توثيق سوف المحكمة تضطر تصدق البوليس أكثر من الناس، لكن إذا في تصوير وكل شيء موثق تكون الحقيقة ظاهرة.
Person asked, I have been asked where I was going to during a traffic stop. Is it okay not to answer?
So that question is very fact specific. It depends on the reason why you're pulled over. Generally speaking, law enforcement does not have the right when you're traveling on a road, like lawful road, to inquire about your whereabouts or where you're going. In certain neighborhoods and in certain circumstances, courts have upheld the officer's ability to inquire as to where you're going. It depends on the nature of that neighborhood, so to speak, and the nature of the actual stop. Generally speaking, if an officer stops you, the questions that you have to answer have to do with your identity and questions related to the purpose of the stop. If the purpose of the stop was because you're speeding, if the purpose of the stop was because you have a taillight out, those are the questions you have to answer. And questions outside the scope of that, you can respectfully decline to answer in most cases.
So أحد الذين يسألون هل يحق للبوليس أو الشرطة أن يسألك أين وجهتك؟ يعني مثلا وقفك في الخط ويسألك إلى أين أنت متجه. غالبا يعني تستطيع أنت الذي تستطيع أن تجيب عليه هو ما يتعلق بمن أنت ومعلوماتك الشخصية. كذلك السبب من يعني توقيفك، ما هو سبب توقيفك، لماذا يعني تتكلم عن هذا. فغالبا لا يحق للبوليس أو الشرطة أن يسألوك إلى أين أنت متجه أو إلى الوجهة التي كنت ذاهب إليها، وتستطيع أنه ترفض الإجابة بطريقة مؤدبة عن هذا السؤال.
Another question has to do with unemployment. A lot of people are applying for unemployment in our community and they don't really have legal firms to guide them. So who is eligible to apply for general unemployment and specifically the pandemic unemployment assistance? Is that something different, or like who's eligible to apply for these types of things?
Sure. So with regards to unemployment for the state of Michigan, anybody who was working full-time and is no longer working full-time is eligible to collect unemployment insurance from the state of Michigan. However, this excludes a lot of people, including individuals who are considered gig workers, which would be like your taxi drivers or Uber drivers or people who are driving for Lyft or Uber Eats, or small business owners. However, under the pandemic unemployment insurance CARES Act, those individuals are entitled to up to 4 months of unemployment. They would not receive the Michigan's unemployment. They would just receive the $600 of the federal government. And those would include people who are self-employed, people who own small businesses who are no longer taking a salary from that business because maybe the business is closed because of COVID, Uber drivers, anybody of that nature that is now not working and was previously self-employed. Before the pandemic, they can apply. You apply directly through the state of Michigan's website, and then you should be eligible for the $600. And I would encourage people to go to CARE Michigan's Facebook page. I actually gave an entire talk about unemployment and the CARES Act and things that you can do. And if you have a specific question, you can always reach out to our office. We are fielding those types of calls and giving assistance to the Muslim community with regards to navigating Michigan's unemployment system.
كان هناك سؤال ما يتعلق في فوائد أو unemployment أو الذي هم متعطلين من الوظيفة. فهي تقول إنه أي واحد كان موظف ثم يعني فقد عمله فيحق له أن يقدم على الانemployment التي هي من الستيت زائد $600 من الفدرال. ما أضيف الآن هو قضية بسبب جائحة كورونا الذي هم كان أعمالهم إما تاكسي درايفر يعني سواقين تاكسي أو أوبر أو أعمال خاصة أو كان معهم بزنس وأقفل البزنس هذا، يحق لهم أيضا كذلك أن يقدموا تحت يعني قضية جائحة كورونا. الأخوة في كير عندهم يعني صفحة في الفيسبوك ويجيبون على هذه الأسئلة، وبإمكانكم أن تتواصلوا معهم عن طريق الصفحة هذه أو توجهوا أسئلة إلى كير مباشرة في أي سؤال محدد في هذا النوع. في هذا الأمر.
So more people are curious about the PUA. They're saying, what if there's a housewife who didn't have work and didn't have any job history, or about the caregiver option on the PUA? Who's eligible for that?
I'm not sure what you mean by the caregiver option. In order to get even pandemic unemployment insurance, you have to have had some type of employment, whether it was through a job where you were getting a paycheck, or a job where you were getting a 1099, which means you're self-employed, or through your own business. If you are not normally a working individual, because maybe you're a stay-at-home mom and you're not bringing a salary into the house, those people are not eligible under the pandemic unemployment insurance, nor are they eligible under Michigan's unemployment insurance. They may have been eligible for the stimulus check if they filed taxes with their spouse, but they're not eligible for unemployment. I'm not sure, maybe that individual's speaking specifically about, they do have pandemic benefits for what would be SNAP benefits, or what we would normally term as food stamps. That might be something that they're eligible for. But I really would encourage anybody who has specific questions about unemployment to reach out to our office through phone, through our website, or through email, because we will be more than happy to walk you through the unemployment process, and how it might, how the CARES Act might, be available for your use.
So السؤال هو عن أعتقد بالتحديد عن الأمهات التي في البيوت ولم يشتغلن، يعني ما اشتغلوا من قبل، فهل يحق لهم أن يقدموا على unemployment؟ المحامية إيمي تقول إنه يعني الطبيعي أو الشيء الطبيعي إنه إذا الشخص كان يشتغل وبعدين توقف عن العمل بأي طريقة، سواء كان يشتغل مع شركة أو مع نفسه أو خاص، أو ثم توقف عن العمل، فيحق له أن يقدم على unemployment. تمام؟ لكن شخص مثل يعني الأم لم تشتغل قط، يعني لم تشتغل من قبل وتريد أن تقدم، هي لا تنصح يعني إنه يعني لا ترى إنه هذا يحق لهم تقديم. لكن يمكن أي شخص التواصل مع كير، مع المكتب، لسؤال محدد، يعني يسألوا السؤال بالتحديد، يعني بما يتعلق بالشخص هذا أو بالعائلة أو بالأم يعني، والأخوة في منظمة كير سوف يجيبوا على السؤال يعني بالتفاصيل، يعني خارج نطاق المكالمة هذه.
That wraps it up for our questions.
I'm sorry, so maybe we should put the numbers if they want to reach out and ask about this unemployment and to get guidance. Is there a number or?
Sure. So they can, anybody can contact our office by calling 248-559-2247. They can also catch us on Gmail at caremichigan@gmail.com, or they can go to our website at www.caremichigan.org.
And the information about this unemployment, is it there or there?
It's actually the unemployment talk that I gave, and the overall CARES Act talk that I gave, which might be important for individuals who have small businesses with regards to PPP loans, can be found on our Facebook page, which is CARE Michigan.
Okay, sounds good. So هي أعطت الرقم 248-559-2246، كذلك الإيميل، أيضا الفيسبوك، الويب سايت تبعهم caremichigan.org. كل هذه المعلومات موجودة هناك، وإذا يعني شيء محدد تريد أن تسأله تستطيع أن تتصل في المكتب.
There's no more questions.
Okay, Brother Dawood, Sister Amy, do you want to add anything, or we can conclude this lecture? Or
I think that's it. Just we just encourage you to reach out to CARE Michigan. Because of the COVID-19 pandemic, we were forced to cancel our banquet. All of the services that we provide at CARE Michigan are done free of charge to the community. All of the litigation work that we're done is done free of charge to the clients that we represent. So we really rely on donations from the community. We don't have any endowments. So we encourage you, if you appreciated this lecture, or you benefited from it, or you've had interactions with CARE Michigan before, I really encourage you to go to our Facebook page. We're running a donation link right now, or you can donate directly to our on our website. I encourage you to do that if CARE Michigan has benefited you, to help us continue to provide the services for the community that have become so vital in keeping the Muslim community informed and safe.
المحامية تشجع كل الجالية الذي يحتاجون مساعدة أن يتواصلوا مع منظمة كير، ومنظمة كير سوف تبذل ما تستطيع لتقديم العون والمساعدة لهؤلاء الأشخاص والعائلات. كما تعلمون منظمة كير هي منظمة غير ربحية، يعني ليس لديهم أوقاف، ليس لديهم أعمال تجارية يعملوا منها ما يدعم حقهم الأنشطة، ولذلك فهم يعتمدون كليا على التبرعات من الجالية حتى يستطيعوا أن يقدموا خدماتهم ويقدموا خدمات أفضل. فأنا شخصيا طبعا كان المفروض يكون معهم بانكوت، كان المفروض يكون معهم حفل عشاء خيري في مارس، لكن بسبب مشكلة كورونا تم إلغاء العشاء الخيري، ولذلك دعمهم كله يعني معتمدين على الجالية عن طريق التبرع، إما عن طريق الويب سايت أو الذهاب للفيسبوك. فأنا أدعو كل الذي يسمعوا وأيضا تشجعوا الآخرين أن يدعموا منظمة كير التي تخدم الجالية المسلمة لمدة 20 عام حتى يستطيعون إقامة مثل هذه المحاضرات، دعم الناس، توجيه تقديم المساعدات والنصائح إلى أبناء الجالية. Okay, I think Brother Dawood, do you want to say anything, or I can make a conclusion statement here?
No, there's nothing else that needs to be said from our end.
That's it. Okay, so at the end of this lecture, I would like, on behalf of the American Muslim Society, on behalf of all the people that are listening today, I would like to thank Brother Dawood Walid, the CARE Executive Director of CARE Michigan, Sister Amy Dukuri, which is the staff attorney. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for all the nice advices and very valuable lecture that you presented today to us. And I hope that everybody will take this knowledge to those people that couldn't make it. So في الأخير نشكر الأستاذ داود وليد رئيس منظمة كير في ميشيغان، وكذلك الأخت أيمي الدكوري المحامية في ميشيغان. نشكرهم على هذه المحاضرة القيمة وعلى المعلومات القيمة، وأدعوكم جميعا أن المعلومات هذه تنقلوها للآخرين، يعني لأن هناك أناس لم يستطيعوا أن يحضروا هذه المحاضرة. وأيضا كما قلت أدعوكم لدعم منظمة كير حتى تستطيع أن تقدم خدماتها للجالية المسلمة في هذا البلد. جزاكم الله خير، والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.